Originally, I didn't think that I would become an entrepreneur, but you know how life is. You evolve and you learn, and you just follow and go through the open doors as they show up. It is a mindset shift, moving from a place where you have that regular paycheck to knowing that it all depends on you. The best way to get out of the discomfort is to do the thing that makes you uncomfortable. That's what I found. Some family members won't be the person that you go to. You love them, but they're not going to be a part of the vision that you have for yourself. They can't see it. If you're wholly dependent on one source of income, what happens when it dries up?
Welcome to the Employee to Entrepreneur channel. Please subscribe so every week you get to hear from amazing guests that share their stories and inspiration and motivation to help them in their journey, and hopefully it will inspire you as well in your transition from employee to entrepreneur. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Employee to Entrepreneur. We have an incredible speaker for you today. She's so authentic. She's a mom of 3 kids, and she took that journey of being in corporate and has been so great at creating this amazing entrepreneurial journey. She's been having so much fantastic success, but I also know that she struggled in the beginning, like a lot of us did in that transition. I'm so excited to introduce Cardeen Williams to share her struggles, but also her wins and her successes and how she's doing so great now. She's got an incredible story. So, Cardeen, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your story so authentically with our audience. Before we really get started into some questions, could you just give us a little bit of your background? Tell us a little bit about who you are and your journey, really at a high level, and then we'll dive a bit deeper into some of the things that in your transition.
Thank you, Anita, and I'm happy to be on your show, and I'm happy to share my journey, hoping it will inspire others or maybe provide some guidance as they make that transition as well. So a bit about me. Yes, I'm a mom of 3. I've spent 20 plus years in corporate, right? And my career started back home in Jamaica. I'm a Canadian immigrant. I came here 13 years ago, so started my career in audit, went into management at various corporations. I moved between countries, so from Jamaica to the Cayman Islands and then to Canada, and I dragged my family with me. Honestly, originally I didn't think that I would become an entrepreneur, but you know how life is. You evolve and you learn, and you just follow and go through the open doors as they show up.
Yeah, amazing. I was born and raised in Canada, but I am a daughter of immigrant parents. And I look back at their story thinking, wow, how hard it is to make that leap and move away from your family, but to let alone do it with children in tow and having to provide and be in this country. And Jamaica's a really warm country, and to come to a place that's not always warm, and just the difference in style and culture and having to reinvent yourself. So I think the transition from employee to entrepreneur is already a challenge for a lot of people. It's why I do what I do. But to add on new cultural differences, to have your kids adjust to the differences in schools and all that kind of stuff. Kudos to you. I don't even think I got part of that. You have your story on that. But so walk us through when you felt stuck. So how did you know that this employee thing wasn't really going to work for you, and you got stuck, and you had to make this leap, and it probably felt a little scary?
I think it was a gradual process. I've always been wanting more, right? So even while in corporate, I would do my BA, I do my master's. I always wanted that additional stimulation. Moving to Canada, of course, it's a different environment. The corporate world for me, unfortunately, didn't provide the stimulation I needed. So I started looking for things that I could do externally. I tried real estate investing. I joined various business groups. I actually started a vending machine business that's still going, right? So I did a number of different things. And then, you know what? One day while I was working, the thing that really triggered it for me, I was thinking to myself, I'm not making the progress that I want to see financially, and I needed to do something more. Otherwise, I'd just die right at my desk. And somebody presented the opportunity of becoming an insurance agent, right? And how I could build a business doing that. And you know what? Curiosity sparked again, and I just dove right in, did my research, and now that's what I'm doing full time.
That's amazing. Everyone, I want you to hear some of the nuggets that she just threw out there. One of which was she tried different things. That's awesome. That is actually the sign of entrepreneurship. And with the way the world is going, you might be in the business you start today might not be the business 12 or 18 months from now.
Yeah,
If you're not open to the idea, just transitioning and saying, I'm going to do this one thing for the rest of my life. It's like being back to being an employee and you're not thinking broadly. And then that led to the second nugget of curiosity. Like, I love that. So, again, just being constantly curious of what else is out there, what more can I add? So, even if you do start to find your calling, which is obviously you have in this insurance world, but I know you, I know the fact that you even are so curious, that's never going to just be the end all be all as the world evolves
unlikely.
and the world evolves. And that's really an amazing sign of that entrepreneurship. If you,
Yes, it has its pros and its cons, right? It scares my husband that I constantly am thinking of something else to do. And it's a learning process. It's trial and error, right? And with each step, with each win, with each loss, there is a lesson and you build a new skill. And eventually you'll come out at the other end. I don't know where the end is. For me, it's a continuous journey, knowing more and being a better version of yourself.
yeah, absolutely. So walk us through that mindset shift because you were in corporate for so long and then you started to explore different things and then you found it. So what is the mindset shift that is required or needed or you took to actually switch that thinking?
As I said, it's a process, and I'm still work in process. For me, there are various triggers, right? First, it's that longing for more, right? That curiosity that causes you to look at what's available. Then you have that learning, right? You have to learn. And what I did during that process, I went out and saw people who were already doing it, hearing their stories, hearing their successes, and following the guidance, right? So that's another part of the process. And it is a mindset shift, moving from a place where you have that regular paycheck to knowing that it all depends on you, right? Financially. For me, it was a bit forced because what triggered me going full time into my insurance business was being laid off from my corporate job, right? So some of these events that happen in life are the catalyst for that big move or that big shift. And just open your mind to being in a continuous learning mode because for me, the process isn't done yet. I'm still learning. I'm still shifting my mind, changing my mindset every day with each learning.
So were you like surprised by the layoff? Were you actually grateful that it happened? It was a monumental, for a lot of people, it is how they end up saying, okay, I guess I'm going to be an entrepreneur now. Was it a surprise for you? And then did you take it like, oh, thank God I finally get to be an entrepreneur now? Or you were like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do?
So I'm a CPA, right? So what does that mean in the corporate world? So I work long hours. I provide a bunch of reports and nobody's ever satisfied with what they get, right? So that was the world that I was in. 60-hour work weeks, working until midnight sometimes, waking up early thinking about work, dreaming about work, right? So I didn't expect it, but when I did get the news, I wasn't upset because I was doing my business part-time anyways, right? So I wasn't without resources. However, I will admit it was a bit scary because you're moving from a six-figure income to zero, right? In a few weeks. But what I did that day when they told me that, okay, fine, they were making some management changes, blah, 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 I shut down my laptop and went to the mall. I went shopping. So that was my response.
Therapy always solves everything.
Exactly, some retail therapy. I was happy, right? So again, it's how you look at change, right? I looked at it as an opportunity to deep dive into this business that I knew I could have great impact with families, with business owners, with self-employed individuals. So I just took it and ran with it.
That's great. And let's talk a little bit about the money side of it because For the most part, that is probably one of the biggest number one fear of leaving employees. So, what do you recommend? Obviously, if you don't know you're going to get laid off, it can be a bit of a surprise. But and we'll talk about that a little bit. But about planning, if you know that you have to plan for the foreseeable, unforeseeable future. But that is a scary thing to go. I just left a figure corporate income, and now I'm like, whatever I work at is the only paycheck I'm going to get. How do you deal with that? What is your advice to someone that is possibly going to have that situation happen to them?
With everything that we do, we should contemplate, we should evaluate, and we should plan, right? So if you're looking to transition from employee to entrepreneur within, say, 1 to 3 years or 3 to 5 years, start planning and building that nest egg that would support you, say, for at least 12 months while you build your business. Ideally, that would be what I would have done if I had the opportunity to plan for it. Make sure that I have that income replacement for at least a year. Again, I'm an accountant, right? By profession. So sales was not in my radar, right? Marketing, not in my radar. These are skills that I had to learn, and I'm still working on learning even now to build my business. And that transition phase, there is a learning curve. For some, it's longer, for some, it's faster. But you do have to prepare for that loss of income when you're transitioning. So build your buffer, find a mentor, identify that the skills that you need to grow your business, and work on building those skills in the interim. A good place to learn those skills are actually in your day job, right? Because you'll have a boss. You'll maybe have other people who are doing the work that you'll need to do in your business. So learn from them, leverage it, and use it to build your business.
Yeah, that's actually awesome advice because you can absolutely learn things from even as an employee, right? Absolutely. I look back now and tapped into as I did my transition into the things that I had been doing. I'm like, oh, I forgot I even know how to do that. It's different. It's different,
Mhm.
but there's still some fundamentals that you can bring in. The stepping up process, you just said, I'm a numbers person, obviously. That's your background. And then all of a sudden you now had to learn marketing and sales and all these other skills that you didn't. So how did you overcome? How did you step up to when things were uncomfortable and you're like, I don't know how to do this. What am I going to do? What got you pushed through that comfort?
You know what? You can only conquer it by doing it. I started out initially with just going live on Facebook in a group, right? So it was a smaller group. My audience was tight, right? And for the most part, I didn't even know if individuals were watching what I was putting up. But it gave me that comfort to go in front of my camera and just talk to my screen, right? And with that, too, you build the confidence, you build the skill set, and I also didn't say no to opportunities that came up. So if I got a speaking opportunity, I'm not going to say no. I'd go and do it. The best way to get out of the discomfort is to do the thing that makes you uncomfortable. That's what I found.
Yes. Yes. No, and absolutely. It's so true. And again, I love this point you just made. Say yes to everything. Figure it out. Just, even
Yeah,
if it's scary, even if you don't know, even if you muck up, just say yes to things and you'll get better the next time and the next time.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So if you could go back and give yourself advice from that, maybe let's say the couple of years when you were still in corporate and then the couple of years after, if you could rewind and tell yourself advice, what would be the, say, top three things you would have told yourself in those, say, 3 or 4 years?
Number one, I'd say invest more into what you have control over, right? So I would have invested more time, more energy into building out my business earlier. One of the feelings I got when I left the role before the role that I got laid off from was that I was walking out and I really had nothing to show for it, right? I spent all those years building a business, contributing, but I really had nothing to show for it. So I would have invested more time into what I had control over, what was actually mine, which is my business that I can use to create a legacy for my kids, right? So be bold, take the risk, get it wrong. You'll learn stuff by getting it wrong. Talk to individuals who are in that space and do it early. Don't wait. Don't give yourself excuses. Don't get comfortable with something that you have no control over. That would be my advice to my younger self,
Yeah,
myself 5 years ago.
yeah, those are really great tips. I really honor them because sometimes we don't have to make all the mistakes. So somebody who's watching this doesn't need to make all the mistakes. They could just take those few tips that you just said right now and say, okay, if I apply those, I'm going to be so many more leaps ahead of where I could be otherwise. How do you feel about coaching and training programs? And what were some of the things that you did to really help accelerate your journey?
I think when it comes to coaching, you need to understand who you are, right? What level of coaching you need if you need coaching. For some people, they just need a manual that you could read and they can go with it. Some people need somebody to check in with them every few weeks. For some people, they need a hand holding, step one, two, three, four, right? So figure out who you are, what kind of person you are when it comes to learning, and find a mentor that allows you to kind of weave that into how you build your business. For me, I attempted a lot of coaching and not everything stuck, right? So again, a bit of trial and error, but that's how you grow. You learn more about yourself with each thing that you try. I realized that I might be too much of an optimist when it comes to certain things. So I need somebody to balance me out. So that's one of the things I learned in the process. That's why I go after so many things. I need somebody to say, hey, think about this. Even though I'm analytical, I'm very optimistic with my analytics, right? So I need somebody to balance me out. So find that person who is okay with asking you the hard questions, right? Maybe upsetting you a bit, but causes you to think because you need to figure out the balance that you need. That would be my advice.
Yeah, that's great. I really do appreciate the notion of knowing your own learning style and what you need because I also did a lot of different things, but it took me a little bit of time to realize where I even learn best and who I learn best from. And for me, it's a lot of accountability. I'm a natural people pleaser, and so I feel like I'm letting someone down or letting the group down, or even if the group doesn't care, I feel it. And that's my learning style. And so I agree to learn to understand yourself and what you need is will accelerate it really quickly. Yeah, that's a great way of doing it too. One of the things that I talk about a lot with new entrepreneurs that I work with is I call it the roller coaster of emotions, right? It's the, oh my God, this was a great idea. Oh my gosh, I'm going to go bankrupt. Oh my God, they called me back. Oh, everyone thinks this is stupid. No one wants to talk to me. And it's like the up and down roller coaster and so I also, you am just an extreme optimist. And so sometimes when I do get hit with that, it is like the thud of the roller coaster where it sinks into my stomach and then I can't even wake up the next day almost. So,
Yeah.
walk us through what you do. What is your strategy of riding the roller coaster wave? Because every entrepreneur has it. You can have
Yeah.
it in the same hour, forget even the same day or the same week. You can have it in the same few minutes. What do you do? What are your strategies to cope with that?
You know what? Everything is hard, right? Working the 9 to 5 is hard. It's a grind. Building your business is hard too, right? So you just have to choose your hard. So when I get kicked down, when I feel like I'm not making any progress, when there's nobody in my pipeline for business, and I'm thinking, oh my God, do I need to go get another job? It's just that, you know what? I've burnt that bridge.
Yeah.
So failure is not an option. So, okay, fine. You need to maybe go cry in the shower a bit or maybe binge watch some TV, then get back on the horse. Do what you need to do, but you know that you need to get back on that horse, right? Keep doing the thing that you need to do to grow your business. And you know that, well, personally, I know that the outcome is certain. It's just a journey to get there, right? You just have to do the thing.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that probably for me too. And I think that's what's the interesting part of people in their early transition years. But I burnt my bridge as well. I consider myself completely unemployable now. I don't think I could go and work for someone else at this point. I don't know how to do that. And I think that when I burnt my bridge, that was when I really went, okay, I guess I have to make this work. I have to be the entrepreneur now.
Or you know what? I'll just let my husband support me, whichever one
Yeah,
works.
yeah, no, that's an option too. I could just win the lottery and also, marry somebody.
Become housewife. I'm not very good at it.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's hilarious. But yeah, no, it's so true that you have to at some point. Now, I'm also a big proponent of saying if you need to go and get a part-time
Yeah.
finances, if you do need to go back and get a job, or not everybody's cut out to be an entrepreneur, that's okay. There's nothing wrong in saying, I tried it. It's really not, don't enjoy the sales part. I don't enjoy the roller coaster. I really need the steady paycheck. I appreciate people having the courage and honesty to know themselves
Mhm.
as well.
Yeah.
But if you've decided you really are an entrepreneur, and I think burning your bridge is a really great way of forcing it.
Yeah. And you know what? As you said, right? It is, you have to consider your options. So even if you're in the entrepreneurship space and you know that's what you want to do, but because of certain circumstances, you have to maybe take a sting back into employment, you could do it part-time, you could do contract work, and you know what? That's a gap fill. If that helps you to get to your entrepreneurial goals, do it, right? It's the thing that you need to do. The thing that you need to do is defined by your circumstances, right? So it's not me telling you what you need to do, it's your circumstances that will dictate. You do your own decision-making process.
Yeah, for sure. And everybody's unique. Everybody's got their own situation. And so it takes courage to actually say, this is what I need to do. And I need a part-time job right now, or I have
Mhm.
some huge expenses coming up, whatever
Yeah,
it might be. It's the right choice for you and your family to do it. But,
yeah,
making that courage. But also, I love what you said about binge watch TV, Netflix, go cry in the shower, whatever it is you need, but then pick yourself back up. There's no harm in wallowing in it for a little period of time or
yeah.
taking a break.
You
Um,
just need to release, vent a bit, and then go back.
and having that safe space. One of the things that I discovered was I personally help me. What do you do? But I personally realized that I could not vent to my family about when I was hitting rock bottom or when things were not good because my family loves me and they want to see me happy, but they could not understand my entrepreneurial journey. They
Yeah.
are a very 9 to 5 type corporate like family. And so for a long time, my mom was like, did you get your resume out? I'm sure they'll take you back. And I'm like, I don't want to go back. I'm not working on my resume. And lovingly, she just had a really hard time understanding. And so
Mm.
I just found that they were not the people that I could talk to. So, A, what do you do when you don't necessarily have a supportive family? For me, I just found some friends that I could call and vent who understood and didn't judge me when I was going through a hard time.
Yeah.
But to walk us through, how was your family? Were they supportive? Were they lovingly not supportive?
My mom, though defined as a housewife, she is an entrepreneur, right? She has done many businesses throughout her lifetime. So she understands the entrepreneurial journey. My father, also a hustler, right? So maybe I have a bit of it from them. My immediate family, I think my kids watch and wonder what I'm doing. As I said before, I scare my husband. So the person that I actually talk to most is my sister because she is like-minded. So I guess, as you said, you need to find those like-minded persons who you can share your journey with, who will offer you support, who will ask you the hard questions and point you in a direction that they think might help you as you pursue your entrepreneurial goals. So you're right. Some family members won't be the person that you go to. You love them, but they're not going to be a part of the vision that you have for yourself. They can't see it, so don't force them to see it. That's my thought.
Yeah, and I agree with that. It's rather just you can use that as your motivation, for lack of a better word, as to show the result, right?
Yeah.
So if you know they're not supportive, then they don't need to be part of the everyday journey part.
Hmm.
They can just see the end result and go, look, I did it.
Hmm.
This is what I did. But I do know there are people who have very supportive families,
Hmm.
but there are people who struggle and don't have that. And I think it becomes a little bit harder because you never really show that you're having a bad day or that
Yeah.
maybe you're even doubting that this was a good decision.
Yeah, yeah. And even though they might not understand the journey, they might believe in the outcome, right? Because, for example, my husband, he believes in the outcome that I'm after, just is scared by the journey. So I give him an overview, but not necessarily the details.
That's great. That's a great strategy. That's a great
Yeah.
strategy. Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about multiple streams of income. You're like a big advocate and proponent of this, as am I. Why is that important? And how does one start thinking about it? Because as an employee, I literally didn't, that's what other people did. I didn't understand that. I had one source of income. That was salary that came into my checking account. That was it. It was only when I became an entrepreneur and I started to understand this notion of multiple streams of income, not just in theory, but in reality.
Yeah.
Walk people through what it is, why we should be thinking about it, and then how do you start to do it? What's a plan? What's a shift to make to get down that path?
Why? Again, the story I shared about being laid off, right? A 2-minute conversation ended my corporate career. What if I didn't have multiple streams of income? That's the question you ask, right? If you're wholly dependent on one source of income, what happens when it dries up? So that's the purpose of having multiple streams of income, especially where you can have passive or semi-passive income streams because it's not dependent on your ability or desire to work, right? It's not your sweat, blood, tears that needs to go into it to generate income. So that's how I believe you achieve real financial freedom, where you can separate your income streams from your time or your ability. So building up those multiple income streams, we're going into a financial, is it a depression? Are they calling it a depression or recession, right? So if you had only one income stream, for example, real estate, that's been hit right now, right? Rents are falling, values are falling. If you had only that income stream, you could potentially be in a tight cash flow situation. But if you built in multiple income streams, then at least you have maybe a buffer where there's for uncorrelated income streams.
So if it's tough because we walk away from our salary, which is the one income stream we're starting down a business. Am I doing all my income streams simultaneously? Am I looking at all of them? Do I build one at a time? How do I make this leap as a new entrepreneur, as a business owner? What is your best recommendation?
What I would recommend, and I guess I'd say again, it's not a one size fit all, but what I would recommend is focus on one thing, get that working to a point where you can then focus on something else. If you have too many balls in the air at the same time, you're likely to drop one or all of them. But if you get that one ball rolling so it can roll somewhat automated or without too much of your input, or you have that system that works for you, then you move to the next. I love to watch, for example, entrepreneurial shows, the School of Hard Knocks, and you'll hear them say that focus on one thing, build that business, and then you diversify afterwards. That would be my approach.
Yeah, that's great. And there are so many lessons learned in watching those kinds of shows, right? Cover Billionaire was another great show with a few billionaires. Grant Cardone had one, and there was two or three of those. Even Dragon's Den and Shark Tank, and just even listening to those pitches and the stories behind their journey. Great lessons. That's
Mhm.
the end in mind, thinking about where do I want to end up in the end.
Yeah, and that's the thing with having the World Wide Web, right? Information is at our fingertips. Experiences, we don't have to be mentored by somebody we know, right? Because there's so much information being put out by people who are where we want to be that we can be mentored virtually, right? So again, there are pros and cons. Don't let it distract you. Find what you want and focus on it so you're not like bombarded with too much information and then end up paralyzed, not being able to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Since you're the money girl, let's just stick a little bit with more money. Let's fast forward a little bit. So, someone's an entrepreneur, they're starting to make money, they're doing well. How do you pay yourself? Do you pay yourself? One of the big tips that I honestly didn't know, and how would I
Mm.
know this as an employee, but having my business income, my entrepreneurial business income come into my checking account. Everything was all mixed up. And
Yeah.
one of the first things, so this is a big tip, everybody. One of the first things I always tell people is go to the bank and have a separate bank account. And
Keeps
then,
it clean.
yeah, so open a bank account that's for your income, your business income. And then the second one, immediately you get the bank to open, is for your taxes. Because
Hmm.
like in the corporate world where taxes get taken care of by your employer, you're now responsible for that. But in your best advice and suggestion, how do people think or deal with the money side of it? And then what do I
Well,
do
you
with
know what?
extra money?
One of the things, as you said, you're right, make it clean by separating, right? It's easier to report that way when it comes for you to file your taxes, and it's easier to keep track, right? Because as an entrepreneur, you need to know, think about your income statement, depending on what type of business you have, also the balance sheet, right? So you have to think like an entrepreneur, business owner, whether you're self-employed or you're incorporated. One of the things that we have to be mindful of as self-employed persons, business owners, is that we don't have that corporate structure behind us that is taking care of our pension, taking care of our critical illness and disabilities. We need now to create our own financial framework that supports us, our families, our businesses now and into the future. So that's one of the things I find my experience that self-employed persons or business owners kick the can down the road on, right? And they then force themselves into a time crunch when they're approaching retirement or there's an unforeseen event that pops up in their lives, right? And as a self-employed person, especially if you're active in your business, you need to have those financial safeguards for when you're not able to work, right? And you have to know that your family is taken care of, your something happens to you. So you have to create that financial foundation for yourself and that financial safeguard around you, your family, and your business. And
Yeah,
that's important,
it is.
even more important than having a separate bank account, right?
Yeah,
Because you
no,
can go through the mess, but if something happens, you need to know that you know where the money is coming from.
yeah, absolutely. And these are things that honestly most of us don't think about in those early stages of that transition, because so many
Yeah,
things are blindly, quite honestly, blindly taken care of for us when you're in an
yeah,
employed job that you don't, think about. So yes, seeking advice on what that structure looks like with the financial framework.
yeah.
Having a really good team of people around you, an accountant, a lawyer, financial planner, like making sure that you've got the right people and resources.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Tapping into that resource because, for example, insurance strategists, people don't like talking to me, but they need to talk to me.
Right.
So don't be afraid to just start the conversation. You don't have to make a decision, but at least get information so at least you're informed and you're not caught off guard because of something you didn't know or didn't think about because you were afraid to have a conversation.
Absolutely. And it's one of the reasons why I love doing these podcasts and interviews, because people come with different experiences. But I hope watching this allows people to understand, if I just have a conversation, if I just talk about it, and I understand that I now have to create my own framework and I need to have my own team of
Yeah.
what I need to do. And these are things that I ask these questions because this is none of the stuff that I knew. And because I also didn't come from a entrepreneurial family like you, I didn't see that I needed to do those things. And I had to learn. I learned it through the School of Hard Knocks. If you're watching this right now, don't do the School of Hard Knocks. Find people, find resources. And in most countries, actually all countries, we all have to pay taxes.
Hmm.
Cannot get away from paying taxes, really.
Except in the Cayman Islands, I didn't pay taxes.
And there's other things, to your point. Even in the Cayman Islands, you still need a financial framework. Even if you're not paying
Yeah.
taxes, you still need to worry about the disability or life insurance or your family. These are things that we need to plan for. And I love the fact that people feel afraid to have the conversations, but you're not being forced to make a decision. Just get the information.
Yeah, and you'll be surprised to find out that there is a solution that matches your circumstance. It's not as hard as you potentially think it could be, and it's not as expensive as you probably think. So it's just, again, just get the info.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Cardeen, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. For anybody who watched this and you want to know information, you want to just have a conversation, Cardeen's information will be in the show notes. And I am just so thankful for you to be so transparent and honest about the highs and the lows of your struggle. And you gave incredible tips.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. It was fun.
Awesome. And so thank you again. And everybody just enjoy this one. Slow it down, rewind it, pick up a lot of her tips that she said, and we'll see you on the next show.
Goodbye.
Thanks for watching. Hopefully you were inspired just as I was by our amazing guest. Please subscribe because every week we will be interviewing someone else who's made that transition from employee to entrepreneur. In the comments, please share the one nugget that you heard that will change your business as well.